So it was the Premier League match day 7, lots of goals, lots of events, lots of things happening, 10 matches to get through. Let's get straight into it. So we start, of course, with the start of the weekend. It was the 12:30 Saturday lunchtime kickoff between Crystal Palace and Liverpool. When Liverpool made it 6 wins out of 7 with a 1-0 victory over Palace, leaving Palace still looking for their first win of the Premier League season. Now onto the lineups, and Oliver Glasner, he brought in a couple of first startees for the season, both new signings, one in Trevor Chalobah, obviously a loan addition, and Ismaila Sarr, who came permanently over the summer. They both came in, and Nketiah moved up front and Sarr was out wide. This meant that Jean-Philippe Mateta would move to the bench, where he did make his 100th appearance in the Premier League when he came on in the second half. Now, there were 4 changes to Arne Slot's team from last week. Cody Gakpo and Diogo Jota came in for Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz up front, while Kostas Tsimikas came in at left back for Robertson, and Curtis Jones found his way into the midfield. Now, one key point of note was that their goalkeeper Kelleher was not in the squad due to illness, which meant that Vítězslav Jaros would come on in the second half when there was the injury to Alisson, which we'll come on to. Palace made a fast start in the match. 22 seconds, in fact, had the ball in the back of the net. Eddie Nketiah managed to dink it in from close range, but he was clearly offside, the correct decision. So it was Liverpool that hit the front first 9 minutes into the match. Diogo Jota getting on the end of a Cody Gakpo ball. Brilliant finish at the back post, and Liverpool took the lead. That would be generally how it'd stay. Liverpool had the dominance in the first half, but were unable to put the match away, kind of a recurring theme in some of Liverpool's games. Palace got better after the second half. They did offer a bit of a threat as they had a real opportunity that he didn't take, but Liverpool should really have put this match out of sight. A couple of injuries to worry about for either side. Daniel Munoz went off for Crystal Palace, and Alisson went off for Liverpool, and Arne Slot in his post-match comment says he's going to be out for a little while. So that's where Jaros came on for his debut, and he only had one kind of thing to do. Eze, when he was through, should have done better with his shot, but Jaros was positioned really well. So this shows in the stats, Liverpool dominated possession as you'd expect, 68%. Their 26 shots only managed 4 on target, but 7 off target. And Palace managed to get 5 on target in the end, but none kind of really troubling, not any massive opportunities for them. This is kind of the story of the season so far for Palace, not struggling to score goals, struggling to create too many chances as well. They've only got 5 in the Premier League so far in their first 7. Mateta's got 2 of those. He came off the bench, and they did look a bit more potent and attacking when he did, but Palace need to start finding a bit more rhythm in front of goal. So from a Palace perspective of the match, 1-0 against Liverpool, not the worst result, but they need some points and they want to see a bit more cohesion and rhythm, I think. Particularly in defence, they seem to be chopping and changing, and Glasner cannot seem to find this kind of rhythmic approach. They finished the season so strongly last year, they've been struggling a bit at the start of this season. Now, one thing Oliver Glasner did point to at the end of the game, he felt they should have had a penalty for a VAR intervention on Virgil van Dijk on Mark Guéhi from a sort of corner incident. But Van Dijk had hold of Guéhi's arm. Didn't really see him enough, I think, to bring him down. The rule points to consistent holding or something ridiculous. It's not clear what's consistent, what's not. But for me, I think that would have been a soft one to have given, but Glasner wasn't happy about it. Slot kind of waved it away on the reverse. In Glasner's post-match press conference, he also talked about the penalty. He said second half he felt they did better against what was a really good Liverpool team. He says we have to stop talking about last season. It was a different squad. Now everybody is focused 100%. We can see that we're close, and we were close to get the result against Liverpool. This is the Premier League, but we do have to improve. So from a Liverpool perspective, it continues this really excellent Premier League start after Arne Slot. Obviously, 6 of their 7 games in the Premier League have been wins. They've got the best defensive record in the top flight so far, only conceding 2 goals. The worry will be, of course, the Alisson injury in the 79th minute, appearing to pull his hamstring. Of course, a couple of injuries for Alisson last season as well, so they managed to get through that kind of period. But Alisson is for me, the best goalkeeper in the world, so you're always going to miss him. But 1 or 2 niggles seem to be continually pulling Alisson out for periods of times. He missed 2 games last month with a hamstring niggle as well, so Slot says he's probably going to be missing, well certainly will be missing on the return from the international break. Now, Kelleher was just ill, so he should come in. So it shouldn't be the biggest of worries, I think, for Liverpool. But been really good so far, obviously, in their wins. But would like to see them against the top 10 side. Really see how they get on in a couple of these games, because they've dealt really well with everything so far. And to see what state this Slot side is in. They're obviously playing more patiently than they were under Klopp, and it seems to be working quite well for them. So at the minute, they're top of the table, done as much as they could do. But it'll be interesting to see how this is going to continue into the Christmas run. So Arne Slot was talking, he was obviously in a buoyant mood after the match, talking about players going on their international break, but his wife will be happy because Liverpool haven't lost, so it's great news for Mrs. Slot, but he'll be very, very pleased about how Liverpool are setting up at the minute. Some trickier games coming up after the break. Their next match in the Premier League sees them at home to Chelsea, which will be interesting because Chelsea have started the season fairly well. Good test of where they're at as well. And Arsenal away from home. That's a huge clash, and I think really will prove whether we can see this Liverpool team having serious title credentials this season. Arsenal versus Southampton up next at the Emirates, and Arsenal had to come from behind for the second Premier League match in a row with a second half fight back against Southampton to win 3-1, keeping them up there with Liverpool and Manchester City, but they did have to work for it. So lineup-wise, Arteta handed a first start in the Premier League for Raheem Sterling. Jurrien Timber was taken off as an injury precaution in midweek and he wasn't risked. Thomas Partey therefore dropping to right back and Jorginho coming into the midfield. While up front, Gabriel Jesus came in for Leandro Trossard as Gabriel Martinelli dropped to the bench. For Southampton, Russell Martin switched to a 5 at the back system to try and best cope with Arsenal, a formation he used in the playoffs last season as Aaron Ramsdale lined up against his former club. Southampton started Ross Stewart up front in his first start for over a year since joining the club, but he limped off after 27 minutes with Cameron Archer coming on for him. He was one of 4 changes that Martin made to the team from last week. Kyle Walker-Peters, Ryan Manning and Joe Aribo also coming into the side. So into the match, and Arsenal had 14 shots in the first half, but the closest was Jorginho's strike from the edge of the box, which whistled just past the post. Ramsdale only made 1 save according to the stats in the first 45, but Saints then shocked Arsenal after the restart. They'd had a warning. Mateus Fernandes had a chance which he just lifted over the bar after some excellent work from Tyler Diblin, who is some talent by the way, turned Calafiori inside out and found Fernandes in the box. But then Raheem Sterling was dispossessed by Fernandes. It set Archer away, who was allowed space to come inside into the box, and he found the bottom corner with a brilliant curling effort. The lead lasted for just 4 minutes though as Arsenal responded. Kai Havertz amongst the goals again. Saka won the ball high, fed Havertz on the edge of the box, and he lashed off the inside of the post with a brilliant left-footed strike to bring the match level. This set the stage as Saka, the assist machine in the Premier League so far this season, put a delightful left-footed cross bending beyond the back post for Gabriel Martinelli to meet it left-footed and finish to make it his second Premier League goal of the season and give Arsenal the lead. And the match was wrapped up after a heavy defensive touch by Southampton allowed Arsenal to grab a third and secure it. Saka this time on the score sheet, confirming a 3-1 win for the Gunners. So onto the key stat takeaways from the match. Kai Havertz has now scored 7 goals in consecutive matches at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal continue to have never lost a home Premier League match against Southampton. 25 matches, the most time that one side has faced another at home without ever losing. And coming to Bukayo Saka, he's the only player on record to have at least 7 shots and create at least 7 chances in more than one Premier League game, which is now done in consecutive games back-to-back. So for Arsenal, that now makes it 16 games unbeaten in all competitions, and Arsenal become only the second club after Manchester United to record 400 Premier League home wins. Saka's 7 assists in the Premier League. Against last season, he got 9 altogether, so it shows he's affecting games, and it's more provider over finisher at the moment, although he pounced on a poor Southampton defensive touch with this one. He does, of course, have some of those excellent set-piece deliveries, which Arsenal have really been benefiting from as well this season. But what we saw today was more the second one, particularly the cross into Martinelli, an excellent delivery again from Saka in an open play situation. Mikel Arteta in the post-match press conference was talking about Kai Havertz in particular. He said he's really hungry, such an intelligent player. He's so focused to achieve what he wants, and he was exceptional again. Arteta added, he said, "We conceded the goal and then it was game on. I thought the team reacted with a lot of authority, and I'm happy that the team can react like this, but not happy after the chances we had that we had to go through that." From a Southampton perspective, not a lot to get excited about so far this season, although Tyler Diblin is someone to get very excited about. An extremely talented player that Southampton have on their books. Another one through their academy. Looks absolutely fantastic. He played with no fear. There were moments when he took the ball on in a real positive situation, so Saints will be hoping that he can spur something out of this season. But the pressure is now mounting on Southampton manager Russell Martin to secure a first Premier League victory following the club's joint worst start to a league campaign and poorest for 26 years. It's also sad news for Scottish striker Ross Stewart, of course signing a year ago from Sunderland, making his first start after injury troubles last season. 27 minutes forced off again. Martin has confirmed afterwards that he will require a muscle scan, so back on the sidelines for Stewart, I'm afraid. Russell Martin was talking post-game. He said, we're only 6 games in. There's a lot of teams with the same points with us, just 2 or 3 points more, and that means it can change so quickly. He said it's about putting in a performance we are proud of after that Bournemouth defeat in particular last Monday. If we do that, we have a chance the same way we do in any football match. But it was 3-1 to Arsenal going into the international break for the Gunners. We saw 6 goals in the first half at the GTEC Stadium and another 2 added late in the second half for Brentford to record a 5-3 win against Wolves on Saturday afternoon with some questionable defending. Brentford really haven't any luck so far with injuries. Johan Visser and Matthias Jensen are joining Igor Thiago, Josh Da Silva, Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey currently in the treatment room. But Thomas Frank only made 1 change to the side that lined up against West Ham United the previous weekend. Christian Norgard recovering from a minor injury, seeing Fabio Carvalho dropped to the bench. For Wolves, 2 changes were made by Gary O'Neill as Santiago Bueno dropped out of central defence for Craig Dawson and Carlos Borges replaced Jon Rickner Bellegarde. Last season, Wolves actually won this fixture at Brentford 4-1. What a difference a year makes. So a lot of goals to get through here, but it was another early one for Brentford to kick things off. Second minute this time, though, they're slacking a little bit. Nathan Collins nodded in Mikael Damsgaard's cross with only 75 seconds on the clock. They really are becoming the master of the early goal. But it was just 2 minutes until Wolves drew level. Smart play down the right between Borges and Semedo saw a pull back to Mateus Cunha, who made no mistake, scoring his 3rd goal of the Premier League this season. VAR then intervened to award Brentford a penalty as Collins was wrestled round the neck to the ground by Mario Lemina. That man, Brian Mbeumo from the spot, kept up his perfect penalty record for the home side and put Brentford back in front. But Jakob Strand Larsen equalised yet again for Wolves. He got ahead of the defender to meet Ryan at Norrie's cross, making it 2-2. Before returning, Christian Norgard got on the end of a smart Brentford move to restore the lead and start the home side pulling away on the Saturday afternoon. Defender Ethan Pinnock then made it 4-2 with an unmarked header at the back post. It was woeful defending again from Wolves, but it was a really good header to make it 4-2 going into half-time. Chances in the second half, but no goals until it got to injury time. It wasn't over. Substitute Fabio Carvalho scored his 1st Premier League goal for Wolves with a tap-in at the back post, earning me some fantasy dream team points as well. So congratulations, Carvalho. Before there was a consolation at the end for Wolves from Ait-Nouri with a direct dribble, did really well, struck really hard. Goalkeeper a bit disappointed as it went through him, but it brought the 8-goal thriller to a close, 5-3 to Brentford. So on to the stats. Brian Mbeumo has registered now 49 goal involvements across 105 Premier League matches for Brentford. That's 28 goals and 21 assists for him. No team has a higher shot on target percentage this season than Brentford as well, with 50.6%. And the 21 goals that Wolves have conceded in just 7 Premier League games gives it an average of 3 per game going against them. Defensive disaster. Brentford are really starting to evolve again as an exciting attacking team. Thomas Frank again continues to surprise everybody with Brentford, I think. Vandenberg has become a real important signing already. Seems to be drifting into the midfield, giving them an extra man, and with the inverted fullback that a lot of the managers are liking to play at the moment. And Brentford are evolving into more of an attacking team, with the back 4 turning into a back 3 when needs be. There's still high press, energy, they're threatening from wide areas still. And I thought it was really important for this game as well that 4 other goal scorers that weren't named Mbeumo got on the score sheet, as it had only been Mbeumo and Visser so far scoring all their Premier League goals. Thomas Frank was understandably in a jovial mood after the game. He said, we've been practising winning the coin toss all week and we lost it. That's why it took us so long to score. But he did say, all jokes aside, we wanted to get forward as quickly as possible, putting crosses in the box, and also proved that after they made it 2-2, they scored 32 seconds after that kick-off. So it's not just the start. Always beware of Brentford from kick-offs. For Wolves, this is now their worst start for 60 years. Chance of you don't know what you were doing could be heard directed at manager Gary O'Neill. The ownership was coming under fire as well. The sounds of it, supporters in the away end were singing, we want Fosun out. They are scoring goals, attacking wise. There's some promise. They've had some really difficult fixtures, but defensively it's really poor. Mistakes, people not picking people up. Lots of work to be done on the training pitch and lots of pressure for Gary O'Neill. The manager commented, said it's the furthest I've seen the group from what we wanted to look like. An unbelievably disappointing afternoon for us. Crazy goals we gave away. We were wide open. He also added that the responsibility, said, is on him. Of course, the players are going to make decisions, but I need to give them something that means they make better decisions than they made today. Fewer mistakes. He said it's the worst game he's been involved in as a coach. So 5-3 to the Bees. They go buzzing on. Leicester City picked up their first win of the Premier League campaign this season at the 7th time of asking. Facundo Buonannote's goal was the difference against Bournemouth, as the Cherries were largely wasteful in front of goal, so it was 1-0 to the Foxes. The Leicester 11 saw Jordan Ayew return to their starting team, as they saw Harry Winks drop to the bench. Apart from that, Leicester lined up with the same 10 other players that started at the Emirates last week in their brilliant effort against Arsenal. Just a single change for Bournemouth as Justin Kluivert came in for Dango Ouattara as Iriola shuffled his front line. Kluivert's recently earned a call-up as well to the Netherlands international squad for the upcoming Nations League matches off the back of his early form for the Cherries. So the only goal of this game came from on loan and very easy to say Facundo Buonannote, scoring his second goal of the season. It was the first time this season that the Foxes had actually been ahead at home in the league. Well, the hosts also felt they should have had a penalty. Steffi Mavridi's cross struck Zabani's outstretched arm, but no decision was made. For Bournemouth, Lewis Cook had a free kick goal disallowed for an Evanilson touch, while Zabani also hit a post and Ouattara a bar. Double woodwork for Bournemouth, as it just seemed that it was going to be one of those days and they couldn't really get their shooting boots on target. A clean sheet for Leicester, secured with some Bournemouth wayward finishing for the first win of the Premier League season for them. A vital 3 points for Steve Cooper's men. Over to the stats, and Bournemouth were going into this one having won each of their last 3 Premier League games against Leicester, but they hit a blank in front of goal this time around. Well, Fass, again, easy to say. No Premier League player has made more clearances than he has this season, and only Nathan Collins has blocked more shots. He looks like he really has developed as a defender that season in the Championship. So from a Leicester perspective, 1-0 wins might not be the prettiest, but when you're looking for your first league win of the season, anything will do. It will give hope to the Home King Power fans to kickstart their campaign with optimism in the coming fixtures. Now, those fixtures coming up after the international break are Southampton, Nottingham Forest and Ipswich, presenting Leicester with some real opportunities to put some more points on the board and build the gap between themselves and the relegation 3. Cooper was talking afterwards about goalscorer Buonannote, saying he's a really talented young guy. I wish he was ours. I've worked with a lot of players his age, and you really need to manage the programme when they start games and when they don't. He's a brave player in a good way, an aggressive player, wanting to take risks, make things happen, and obviously he did that today with the goal. He added on his own future, good days, bad days, I never think about myself. I always think with the greater good of the football club, and an important win as well, because there were some noises around Steve Cooper and his long-term future at the club. So Bournemouth have been good so far this season, no doubt about it, but they need to be more ruthless, more clinical. They're creating a lot of chances, but not always getting them on target and scoring goals. They're third in the league for the highest number of shots, but only 32.5% of these are going on target, which is 15th overall for accuracy. 8 goals in 7 Premier League games. While the attackers looked exciting, are they missing Dominic Solanke, where he scored his 19 in 38 for them last season? Lewis Cook's disallowed free kick with Evanilson offside. Ryan Christie denied by Hermanson, who's in good form. Ouattara, Zabani hitting the woodwork. There's enough chances to win this game, and I think that will really frustrate Iriola. And the man himself said it's difficult to explain. You need to score. We had a disallowed goal, hit the post, the crossbar. We had enough chances, I said there, just to win the game. We have to give merit to their offensive side, but on the other side, we're missing very clear chances. Ryan Christie do an amazing save from the keeper. There's chances you cannot miss altogether. He said, we have to be more clinical. It is hurting us. He said, all the games, apart from Liverpool, we're creating more chances than the opposition, but we're not getting the points. But 1-0 to Leicester, they finally put a win on the board in the Premier League this season. Mateo Kovacic was at the double for Manchester City as they saw off a spirited Fulham at the Etihad, a 3-2 victory for Pep Guardiola's team. They now sit second, just a point behind leaders Liverpool. In changes from the Newcastle United game, Pep moved Rico Lewis back to right back in place of Kyle Walker as he brought Phil Foden in further forward alongside Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan and Jack Grealish, who all started last weekend. Foden and Gundogan both also started the midweek Champions League match against Slovan Bratislava. Marco Silva lined his Fulham team up with Alex Iwobi dropping deeper into a back 5 as Emil Smith-Rowe made way for Sander Berge to give more of a defensive look in midfield. Adama Traore was positioned high and left as a threatening outlet with his pace and power. And speaking of Traore, is a lot of what we know him for, powerful, pacey, getting these opportunities, but not really having that finishing touch to it. He had already had his first chance of the afternoon. He couldn't beat Ederson through on goal. But it was a moment of beauty from Fulham with a clever back heel from Raul Jimenez, really starting the season well for Fulham, looping the ball up to Andreas Pereira, who got on the end of it from close range. A really, really clever assist from Jimenez. Traore then had a massive chance. Alex Iwobi found him in the box and he was close enough, probably about 6 yards out. He blazed it over the bar and Fulham were made to pay for this. A corner fell back to Mateo Kovacic and his effort was deflected past Leno to level the match. Kovacic's second, though, after half-time was really well worked by City. Foden's cross found Bernardo Silva towards the edge of the box. He laid a touch to the Croatian. He took a touch to dummy the defender and struck really well for his second of the game and to put City in front just after half-time. Then there was almost another twist. Traore beat Kyle Walker for pace. Absolutely burnt Kyle Walker. Got himself through on goal, but he shot straight at Ederson with a massive chance, and they were made to pay again. In fact, City had conceded several more chances at this point before Jeremy Doku drifted in from the left and absolutely lashed a strike. Leno was caught going the other way, and it smashed in towards the top right-hand side of the goal. Manchester City winning the match 3-2. So stats-wise, Manchester City have now equalled their longest unbeaten run in league football, 30 games with 24 wins and 6 draws in that time. Previously, they'd done this in January 2018. While Fulham have now lost their last 17 meetings with City, but you've got to say this one was a tremendous effort from the away side. So with all the talk off the pitch being about legal cases again this week, so in the Premier League, on the pitch, a lot of the talk has been about the loss of Rodri. City fans would have been pleased to see Kovacic contribute with important goals from the central midfield position. Kovacic commented himself, he said it means a lot to him because his wife is pregnant, so it's great to get some goals for the little one, he said. But he said it's nice to score and the important thing was that they won. I say after dropping points against Newcastle United and Arsenal in their last 2 games, it was important for City to get back amongst the wins here as Liverpool and Arsenal are putting down the pace as well. Pep commented in the post-match press conference, he said the 2 with Kovacic goals were good when they had 5 at the back because only the striker can defend him in that situation, making transitions less dangerous. We used that weapon and Kovacic did really well. Speaking on the goal from Doku, really, really good. He said talk about his ability to dribble, but it's about that final pass, the last action. He said he was diagonal to him when he hit the shot and the ball made an incredible curve effect and he was really happy for Doku. From a Fulham perspective then, lots and lots of positives I think for Fulham to take from that. They've been really good so far this season and really put a good showing of themselves at the Etihad. Superb opening goal, brilliant assist from Jimenez and the trouble they caused the champions throughout the afternoon. Now, as we've commented, if Adama Traore could finish, the story could have been different. But the powerhouse does look to be a bit of a threat again so far this season, having disappeared quietly last couple of seasons. Remember him what he was like at Wolves a few years ago. But they continue to try and nurture him. And if they can just get that finishing product, he's an absolute danger. Speaking about him afterwards, Marco Silva said it was a sad moment for him, really sad in that dressing room. We have to look at the reality of what happened this afternoon. It's not easy to create chances like that, but he has to take some. But he says we need to keep giving him trust, belief for him to perform again in the next game. Overall said that they had more of the ball, more control. City were getting deeper and finished the game with 5 at the back, so Fulham deserve credit for that. But he said he's sad with the result, but proud of the performance. They have to take something from that performance. So it was City 3, Fulham 2, heading into the international break for these 2 teams. West Ham finally got a home win in the Premier League this season as they put 4 past Ipswich Town, giving their goal difference a boost with 4 different scorers against Kieran McKenna's Ipswich Town side. In their starting lineup, West Ham went with the same 11 that started the game against Brentford last week, which included Jean-Claire Todibo as the Hammers looked to strengthen a centre-back partnership with Max Kilman. On the bench, the Hammers saw the return of Edson Alvarez. He returned to the Matchday squad, having served out his 1-match suspension. For Ipswich, Ben Johnson came back in at right back for Axel Tuanzebe. He'd started every game so far, but he's had to have surgery on an injured hand. Turns out it was the washing up. Be careful doing those dishes. Tuanzebe's not too sure how long he's going to be out for. In another change, Ogbena came in for Wes Burns in a very different looking, therefore, right-hand side. The remaining 9 players all played in the 2-2 draw with Aston Villa the previous Sunday. So on to the match. It didn't take West Ham long at all. Bowen set up a goal within the opening 48 seconds for Michael Antonio on the end of his low, tempting cross from the right, as West Ham overloaded Ipswich, having won the ball from their former loanee Calvin Phillips. Liam Delap, though, hit back quickly. He is scoring goals for Ipswich Town, and from a corner he held off Lucas Paqueta with excellent strength, swivelled inside the box, reversed the ball back to the near post with a powerful strike. Areola would have felt he probably could have done better, stronger hand down low, was frustrated as well with the defending, but Delap willed away in celebration, his 4th of the Premier League season. Mohamed Kudus had already hit a post and Thomas Soucek saw an effort cleared off the line before the Ghanaian got his goal. Antonio hit the underside of the bar with a powerful header and Kudus got up first to nod him from close range for his first Premier League goal of the season. And after half-time, Bowen was on hand to get himself a goal, extending the home side's lead. Dribbling into the box, cutting inside of Phillips, didn't have the greatest game to be honest, and a happy return to the Hammers. And he found the bottom left-hand corner, Bowen, with a really good left-foot strike. Paqueta then put the icing on the cake, arriving at the back post for a simple tap-in on an afternoon where West Ham got their first home win, and they were fully worthy winners against Ipswich. Now, stats-wise, West Ham had 13 shots on target against Ipswich, which is their most in a Premier League game on record since the 2003-2004 season. Michail Antonio has now scored in 10 consecutive Premier League seasons for West Ham. It's his 68th in the Premier League overall for the Hammers. And for Ipswich, they were beaten 4-1 away from home for the second time this season in the Premier League, the other one coming at the Etihad against Manchester City. So in summary for West Ham, the attack really clicked in this match for West Ham. The switches of play looked sharp. Kudus, Bowen, Lucas Paqueta, Antonio, all on form after what's been a bit of a stuttering start from West Ham. Bowen was named man of the match as well, having been left out of the England squad by Lee Carsley. Clearly a point to prove for him, putting his name back in the reckoning for future squads. So no doubt a big win for Julian Lopetegui, who was under pressure. No wins in 4 Premier League matches, remember, going into this one. He said, it's an important day for us. We deserve to win against a good team like Ipswich. We started very well, but suffered in goal in an action I think we can avoid. But afterwards, the mentality was strong. So despite the loss for Ipswich, Liam Delap has been a real positive so far this season for them. And another excellent strike from him, his 4th of the season after his permanent signing from Manchester City. Kieran McKenna will surely be delighted how he's getting amongst the goals this early on. They've got 4 points from 7 games, which is the same total that Luton Town had this time last season. Obviously, similarities people are drawing between the two, but the Ipswich fans would love a win on the return after the international break. Everton, Brentford, Leicester, all awaiting the next 3 fixtures, and they'll be hoping there's some opportunities there for them to pick up some more points and that first Premier League win. Kieran McKenna commented after the game, said they're the first team we faced with that style. A lot of direct balls up to Antonio, a lot of balls to Soucek. We didn't deal with them well enough, made poor mistakes for the goals, and that made the game difficult and took all the momentum away from us. He added that he thought everyone is out there with the right intent, how they're covering each other. Said he doesn't think it's anything they don't know, but the game is changing very, very quickly on them in matches. He said when you drop your level, the game can get away from you, and he wants to see that improve. So not a great day for Ipswich, but West Ham 4-1 home win at last. Anthony Gordon missed a penalty on his return to Goodison Park as Everton and Newcastle United shared out a 0-0 draw in the Saturday evening kickoff. James Garner, Jack Harrison and Michael Keane were recalled to Everton's starting lineup as manager Sean Dyche made 3 changes from the side that recorded their first victory against Crystal Palace last time out. Everton had missing again Jared Branthwaite, he's back on the injured list, as is Vitaly Mikalenko, and young forward Jesper Lindstrom dropped to the bench. For Newcastle, Eddie Howe opted to play the same 11 that he fielded in the 1-1 draw against Manchester City the previous week. They did have that EFL Cup tie in midweek where he made 8 changes against that team, was able to rest a number of players and lined up against Everton with the inclusion of former Toffee Anthony Gordon. And in the game, it was Gordon who had the game's decisive moment, as it turned out. He'd been taunted by Everton fans from the first whistle, but he missed the opportunity to silence his tormentors when his poor spot kick was well saved by Pickford, diving to his left after James Tarkowski was penalised for dragging Tonali to the floor after a corner. Pickford was saying on the save afterwards, he said, to be fair, I watched the game last week. He reversed against Edison and I fancied him going to the keeper's left. Hit me in the knee and straight off my beak, his nose, and I think he'll be disappointed, but I'm there to make the save. That's what I did. Pickford also said he backs himself on penalties. The first time he saved for Everton for a while and a point and a clean sheet. He's happy to build on that. The rest of the game saw some chances. Everton did have a goal disallowed from Decore, and Calvert-Lewin felt he should have had a penalty after an incident with Dan Burn. Let me know what you think about that one. So on the stats side, since the start of last season, only Arsenal and Liverpool actually have kept more clean sheets than Everton have with 21 and 15. Everton have kept 14 clean sheets since the start of last season, but this is their first of this season. Eddie Howe doesn't like Goodison Park. It appears his record is not great there for Bournemouth and Newcastle. He's now lost 6, won 2 and drawn 1 at Goodison Park. So from an Everton perspective, a 0-0 draw is not something people are usually going to get excited about, but Dyche is going to be extremely pleased with Everton's first clean sheet of the season. He'll know it's about putting combinations of results together off the back of last week's win. Adding 4 points to the board certainly adds to taking off some of the pressure. A victory as well without Branthwaite and Mykolenko in the defence won't go unnoticed either. Still concerns over the potency of the attack, but some steps forward giving some positivity at least to the Toffees. Dyche said after the match, we had a lot of mistakes earlier in the season and you just can't make that many mistakes. We had to cut that out. We're showing signs that we're beginning to do that. And when you do the basics right, that usually looks after you. He said it's back to where we were. Last season we were strong defensively. That's really pleasing. Offensive side, still finding our feet. From a Newcastle perspective, that's now 3 Premier League games without a win after their strong initial start. With Isak still sidelined with his toe injury and Callum Wilson still not near training with his hamstring issue, Newcastle are certainly short up top. Gordon was used again in a central role in the first half at Everton, while Harvey Barnes did move into that period after the break, but something that Howe is obviously still trying to find a solution for. The manager said we created a lot of good chances. I'm frustrated we haven't won, but it was much better. It looked like we were snatching at chances though. Have to credit the players because it is a difficult environment to play in and a much better defensive display from us too. Big steps forward. So 0-0 at Goodison Park, honours even between Everton and Newcastle. Aston Villa and Manchester United shared a 0-0 at Villa Park on Sunday. Certainly not the most exciting game you'll ever see between these two. With high stakes and the pressure on Ten Hag at boiling point, the emotional come down for Villa after that sensational win against Bayern Munich in midweek, it was a bit of a dull affair. Unai Emery made a few changes to his Villa team after the Bayern Munich success. Amadou Onana missed out with injury as Ross Barkley came into the midfield. Well, he also brought Matty Cash in at right back and Leon Bailey came in to freshen up the attack. Erik Ten Hag made 4 changes from United's midweek crazy 3-3 draw against Porto, including both centre-backs. Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans returned to the team in place of Matthias de Ligt and Lisandro Martinez. Kobbie Mainoo returned in midfield alongside Christian Eriksen, leading Bruno Fernandes, Alejandro Garnacho and Marcus Rashford, with Rasmus Højlund leading the line for the first time in the Premier League this season. So not a lot really to report on when we're actually talking about the match. Marcus Rashford tested Villa keeper Martinez twice. Bruno Fernandes probably had the greatest chance for United, although another not great display from him overall. But he did hit a second half really good free kick that bounced off the bar at the Holt end. Substitute Anthony forced Martinez into an acrobatic save as well from long range. Onana was not troubled too much, but he did well to push away a drive from Yuri Tielemans and keeping himself another clean sheet. Defensively, from United's perspective, really good. Johnny Evans was absolutely superb. How that man at 36 keeps going, he's a shining light to a lot of United players. He should be. His performance again, absolutely exemplary. What a professional Johnny Evans is. So stats-wise, that's the first clean sheet of the season for Aston Villa as their defence held strong against a pretty weak Manchester United attack in the end. Andre Onana now has 4 clean sheets of his own for Manchester United. Only Liverpool have recorded more than United in terms of clean sheets this season in the Premier League with 5. And Manchester United have now failed to score in their last 3 games in the Premier League. They're on a run of 308 minutes without a goal. So from a Villa perspective, it was a bit flat, kind of understandably so after that unbelievable result against Bayern Munich in midweek. Didn't quite have the same energy, particularly in the attacking areas as they have done in recent matches. So in the Premier League, that's now back-to-back draws for Villa after the 3 wins they'd had prior to that. 7 matches coming up for them in the next month where they return. Injuries are starting to creak in a little bit for Villa. And obviously that win against Bayern Munich puts them in a good place in the Champions League. Emery spoke after the game about particularly Ezri Konsa's injury. Konsa going down, a worry for Villa in that first half. Says he doesn't know. Hopefully it's not a lot. Hopefully he can rest in the international break. I'll let him know, Unai Emery. He's in my dream team, so I got Costa clean sheet with his injury. I hope he's back soon. And Ezri Konsa has been important for Villa, of course, and will miss, of course, the England international squad in this recent break. But from a Manchester United perspective, the narrative around Erik ten Hag is going to continue to dominate, despite a successful defensive display away at a strong side, like Villa. Isolated, a draw at Villa is very good. It's a good result, a clean sheet there. But with a return of just 8 points, it's United's worst start to a Premier League. A paltry 5 goals. The fans are frustrated. And all Ten Hag does seem is to continue to preach time and that everybody's together. But the performances are not good. Is under serious pressure. Is time up? We'll see over the international break. There's apparently some big meetings with the Manchester United hierarchy. And they've had some massive decisions to make. Ten Hag spoke the situation. He said, we always speak when talking about the hierarchy at United. Every week we speak. We're all on board together. One page. We know what we're working through. It's a long-term process. We've come through 2 very tough away games. This is a team we showed the belief and faith that we have. It was good character and good spirit as a team, determined, resilient. But was it a good performance? I don't think it was. So Villa 0, Manchester United 0. Will Ten Hag still be in charge when the Premier League comes back around after the international break? Chelsea 1, Nottingham Forest 1. Change of location for me as well, absolutely pouring down in my conservatory. But this one was a very feisty affair indeed. Chris Wood and Noni Madueke, the scorers in this one, as honours earned even at Stamford Bridge. So with the lineup for Chelsea, they've been able to use the Conference League as a bit of a rotation for them so far. So they had made 11 changes in their midweek team, and this allowed the home team to name the same starting lineup that defeated Brighton last weekend, using Malo Gusto and Marc Cucurella in particular, pushing on to try and exploit Forest's 4-2-3-1 formation out wide. For Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White returned following his 1-match suspension, and Callum Hudson-Odoi returned to face the side that he played over 100 times for in Chelsea, as Nuno Espirito Santo looked to build upon their really promising start in the Premier League this season so far. So into the match, and Forest goalkeeper Matt Sells was busy through the whole game. In the first half, he made a couple of great saves, plenty of action to keep Chelsea at bay. Then into the second half, Chris Wood was the man to open the scoring. Forest took advantage of a set-piece situation with a deep free kick that was headed back into the danger area by Nikola Milenkovic. Chris Wood slid in for his 3rd of the season to give Forest the lead. But for Chelsea, it was Noni Madueke. He was the guy to get the equaliser for them. It was his 4th in the Premier League this season. Started really well. He hit a low-effort pass Sells into the far corner, levelling the match. Now, if James Ward-Prowse was playing rugby, that was a brilliant 5 points try, but his dive on the ball was always going to earn him a second yellow card in this one. There was a really feisty scuffle afterwards on the sidelines between both teams. All sorts of shenanigans led to 13 minutes of added stoppage time, but I don't think no arguments for the Ward-Prowse sending off. Forest then had to defend really heroically. They had to survive lots and lots of Chelsea pressure that was building. They did have a big chance to go ahead. Nico Williams was 1-on-1 with the keeper, but it was a good save to keep him out. Mudryk had a chance, created a chance for Chelsea, picking up the loose ball, running the length of the pitch, hitting a cross for a diving header from Christopher Nkunku, for a fantastic world-class save from Matt Sells. Played a brilliant part in the home side so far this season, and has really sort of come to the forefront. But he had an excellent game against Chelsea. 27 bookings so far after 7 games though for Chelsea. That's a hell of a lot. They've received at least 6 more yellow cards than anybody else. Maresca has commented, said this is going to cost them unless they can sort this out. Forest have conceded just 6 goals so far in this Premier League campaign, and despite conceding 9 shots on target, Matt Sells, as we said, fine form, made 8 saves. Despite this, Forest are only on average conceding 3 shots on target per game though, which is the 2nd best in the division. So Chelsea's summary, they quietly made promise in the start of the season compared, I think, to a lot of people's expectations. Obviously, a lot of people pointing towards their massive squad, bringing players in left, right and centre. But the squad that they've used, they've won 4, drawn 2 in the Premier League since that Manchester City defeat on the opening day. Subsequent to this one, the discipline's been an issue. Chelsea and Forest have been charged by the Football Association for failing to control their players after a mass confrontation for Sunday's Premier League game. Cole Palmer again on an assist. This time it was a straightforward ball that he played this. He did have a couple of big chances as well to add to his tally. But since his Premier League debut for Chelsea in September 2023, no player has provided more assists in the Premier League than Cole Palmer. He's joint with Bukayo Saka with 16. Maresca said afterwards, he said he thought they deserved to win. He said they were a very good team in Forest and they would defend well. It was a tough and tricky game, very different to Brighton. We were patient on the ball and created chances. He was asked about concerns that his home form wasn't the same as their away form, but he said, I don't think so if you analyse the games. I think Palace was like today. We created and deserved the win. He said he doesn't see any reason. Now, Forest seem to be a team transitioning, much like Brentford so far this season in some ways, but they seem as more a defensive team, obviously, under Steve Cooper in the first season under Nuno as well. But they're now seeming to retain position. They're higher up, they're pressing, and they're sitting off teams when they require. So it's been a really good start to the season so far for Forest. They've evolved with some good squad additions, and they're proving very hard to beat this time around. Speaking on Chris Wood, Nuno said he gives us good results. Chris is always there to deliver and we are happy for it. He explained about the game. He said the second half was very good for the spectators. We controlled it well. There's no other way to play against big teams. If you don't unite, then it's difficult. We blocked the middle of the park and dealt very well with the one-on-ones out wide. So Chelsea won, Nottingham Forest won. It was a shared draw at Stamford Bridge. Brighton and Hove Albion 3, Tottenham Hotspur 2. A truly stunning comeback from the Seagulls in the second half against Spurs and Ange Postecoglou. Coming from 2-0 down for a 3-2 victory on Sunday afternoon. A result that sees Brighton up to 6th and Tottenham down to 9th. Now their lineups, Brighton made changes in their defence. Joel Veltman returning at right back, which saw Ferdi Kadioglu move to left back and Pervis Estupiñán dropping to the bench, although his second half introduction from the substitutes bench made a big difference to the match. Matt Sweefer also dropped to the bench as Yankuba Minter came in to play on the left-hand side. Tottenham turned up at Brighton backing the same team that defeated Manchester United 3-0 at Old Trafford last weekend. They also had a 2-1 win over Ferencváros in the Europa League in midweek. The side, of course, included Dominic Solanke, who's earned a recall into the England squad for the upcoming Nations League games as well. So in the match itself, it was Brennan Johnson who opened the scoring at the Amex as he timed his run perfectly, connecting with Dominic Solanke's through ball. He calmly slotted past the goalkeeper Bart Verbruggen to take the lead for Spurs. And it wasn't great from the home keeper. He really should have probably done better with that curled shot from James Maddison. He got two hands on the low strike, but not enough to keep it out. Spurs doubled their lead, Maddison scoring for Tottenham. But as we entered the second half, this is where everything changed. Brighton managed to pull them back pretty early in the second half. Cross came across from Matoma, and Destiny Udogie couldn't clear it the way the ball was bouncing, made a bit of a hash of it, to be honest. Minter, he capitalised on it, grabbing his first goal for Brighton since his move from Newcastle in the summer, firing in at the near post. And for the second, Matoma was on it again. He was fantastic throughout, back to kind of some of his best in the match against Tottenham, equalising in the 58th minute. He passed to Jorginho Rutter. He twisted in the box really well, created space away from Mickey van der Ven and shot low past Vicario. Rutter then turned provider for Brighton's winner. He did excellently, not giving up, slid in near the byline, getting a cross in, and Danny Welbeck converted with a downward header to score what was the winner for Brighton. In terms of the stats, it was an entertaining game. Brighton is still quite high if you look at the league table for number of shots, but their shot on target percentage is low. They're 18th in division for that one. And they're actually only making 2 saves a game. They are restricting the amount of efforts on goal. In that first half in particular, it was kind of Jekyll and Hyde, poor and then excellent. Tottenham do continue to create so many chances though, and they would have felt they were in a good position at 2-0, but again didn't kill a game off. And they're just really lacking energy in that second half. I felt it was a bit... They didn't really change anything up either. It was a real problem from Tottenham's perspective, and I think Ange was under the cosh a little bit. It seems to be sort of one step forward, one step back for Tottenham at times this season. So for a Brighton kind of summary, they were non-existent in that first half, as we said. Fabian Herzler does deserve a huge amount of credit, though, for the way they had an astonishing turnaround. Obviously, whatever he said at half-time, the introduction of Estupiñán helped the way that they were playing, and it certainly helped during the break. As soon as they got that first and you felt the crowd on top of them and you could see kind of the reaction of the Tottenham players, you felt that something might well be on. Brighton are starting to have that kind of feeling that they can ride a wave of momentum. Herzler said afterwards, the league is so competitive, you have to work hard for momentum. When you have momentum, yes, you have to use this momentum. He said he looked at the performances, they've been good, and now it's about improving, trying to focus on the process, not too much on the results, seeing what happens. So the message from Herzler, trust the process. At half-time, things were going so well from a Tottenham perspective. Their positive week was continuing, but their collapse was reminiscent of Spurs' collapses in the past. And Ange Postecoglou will be fuming with that. Brighton were good in the second half, but Spurs did make things way too easy for them. Do need to highlight, though, the excellent performances of Brennan Johnson, the 23-year-old Welsh international, now scoring in his past 6 games in all competitions. After that kind of criticism he had early on in the season, a fantastic response from the youngster. And Ange commented, disappointed, frustrated, absolutely gutted with that. Worst result since I've been here. Unacceptable second half. Nowhere near where we should be. We got carried away with how we were going, so not mincing his words. He said, there's no message. It's a terrible loss for us, as bad as it gets. Only one way to fix it. That's my responsibility. We need to be more competitive. So Brighton turned Tottenham over 3-2. Excellent win for Brighton as we head into the international break. And there we have it. Here's the Premier League table for the end of match day 7 before the international break. So Liverpool, of course, leading the way from Manchester City and Arsenal. Chelsea in that all-important Champions League spot just ahead of Aston Villa. Brighton, Newcastle, Fulham, Tottenham and Nottingham Forest rounding off the top 10. Brentford sat in 11th with West Ham, Bournemouth and Manchester United all on 8 points. United in 14th at the moment. Leicester City, Everton rising to 16th. Ipswich in 17th. Crystal Palace, Southampton and Wolves currently making up the bottom 3. So some tasty fixtures when we return from the international break. Tottenham, West Ham first up. Fulham, Villa could be interesting with Fulham at home. Ipswich, Everton has massive implications in terms of the relegation zone. Manchester United versus Brentford. A lot of pressure going to be on that one again for Manchester United. Newcastle versus Brighton could go either way. Saints, Leicester, another big match in the relegation zone. Bournemouth host Arsenal, which could be a potential banana skin for Arsenal. They'll have to be on it there. Wolves versus Manchester City. Doesn't get any easier for Wolves. Liverpool, Chelsea, both obviously in the top 4. Scoring goals could be intriguing. And Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace to round off the fixtures. So I hope to catch you back after the international break. I am Sam, Absolute FBL. You can catch me on Twitter, TikTok, all that business. Please give the channel a subscribe if you like the video. I'm going to try and do more of these weekly matchday run-throughs, what's going on in the Premier League, and also check out my weekly shorts on the news. If you like a podcast as well, I do the Absolute Football Podcast with my friends over on the Absolute Football Podcast channel. We do Premier League, EFL, National League, women's football as well. Everything you could want to cover. But for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you after the break.